It's Saturday, September 20th, day 1304 of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Today, we'll break down the most significant developments from the past 24 hours, from the battlefield to international diplomacy. We'll cover the latest fighting, regional security tensions, and the global political maneuvers shaping the war's future. Our goal, clarity, and context on a conflict that continues to reshape lives far beyond the front lines. Let's dive into the key events of the day. We begin deep inside Russia's Samara region, a vast and strategically important area that has, until recently, remained largely untouched by the direct impacts of the ongoing war. Overnight, Ukrainian drones launched a surprise attack on the city of Syzran, catching many residents and officials off guard as explosions echoed through the darkness. The primary target was an oil refinery, one of the region's most critical facilities, essential not only for Russia's economy, but also for fueling its military operations across the front lines. The attack, carried out before dawn, triggered massive fires that raged for hours, sending plumes of smoke high into the sky and lighting up the horizon. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, but the scale of the blaze was overwhelming, leaving at least one person dead and several others injured in the chaos. Russian authorities quickly confirmed the refinery had been hit, acknowledging the significant damage and the challenge of restoring operations. This strike highlights Ukraine's growing ability to project power deep into Russian territory, far beyond the immediate front lines of the conflict. By targeting vital energy infrastructure, Ukraine aims to disrupt Russia's fuel supply chains, inflict economic pain, and undermine Moscow's war machine. These attacks force Moscow to divert valuable resources and attention away from the battlefield, complicating logistics and stretching its defenses even thinner. The strike in Samara is just one in a series of Ukrainian operations targeting Russia's energy sector, forming part of a broader campaign to weaken the country's war effort. The message is clear: no contributor to Russia's military campaign is beyond reach, and even well-defended sites are now vulnerable. Kyiv has signaled that as long as Russian attacks continue, Ukraine will respond wherever it can, using every tool at its disposal to strike back. These asymmetric tactics are designed to impose costs on Russia far from the main theater of war, forcing the Kremlin to confront new vulnerabilities. The attack on Samara is a stark reminder that the conflict's reach is expanding and that no region is immune from the consequences of this war. The war is no longer confined to Ukraine's borders. It is now reshaping the security landscape deep inside Russia itself. Overnight, the Dnipro region endured one of the most intense Russian barrages in recent months. Waves of missiles and Iranian-made Shahed drones rained down relentlessly on cities like Dnipro and Kryvyi Rih, shattering the calm of the night and sending residents scrambling for shelter as air raid sirens blared. Ukrainian air defenses responded swiftly, intercepting many incoming projectiles and working tirelessly to protect the population. However, the sheer volume and coordination of the attack overwhelmed their systems, allowing several missiles and drones to slip through the defenses and strike their targets. Critical infrastructure, including power stations and water facilities, as well as civilian neighborhoods, were hit. The strikes resulted in multiple casualties, left dozens injured, and caused widespread destruction, leaving many families without homes or basic services. Emergency crews and first responders worked through the night, risking their lives to rescue survivors trapped under rubble, provide urgent medical care, and battle fires that raged in the aftermath of the strikes. President Zelenskyy condemned the attack in a national address, praised the bravery of air defense units, and renewed urgent calls for more advanced air defense systems from international partners, stressing that Ukraine's security depends on global support. The assault highlights Ukraine's ongoing struggle to protect its cities and civilians, and underscores the vital importance of continued Western military and humanitarian support in the face of relentless aggression. Each attack deepens the scars on communities, tears families apart, and serves as a stark reminder of the high stakes and human cost of this war. The need for stronger, more advanced air defenses has never been more urgent as Ukraine fights to defend its people and its future. Among the Dnipro attacks, one incident stands out: a cluster munition strike on an apartment building. These weapons scattered deadly bomblets over wide areas, making them especially dangerous in cities. The attack left families homeless, caused significant casualties, and left unexploded ordnance threatening first responders. The use of cluster munitions in populated areas is widely condemned and may constitute a war crime. Human rights groups have documented repeated use of such weapons in Ukraine, with devastating effects on civilians. For survivors, the trauma is both physical and psychological. The world is once again confronted with evidence of attacks on civilians, fueling calls for accountability. The dangers of war extend far beyond the soldiers on the front lines. They also threaten those who risk everything to report the truth. Journalists, camera operators, and their teams often put themselves in harm's way to bring vital information to the world. Near Pokrovsk, a Channel 5 news crew struck a hidden landmine while on assignment. The explosion left the journalists with serious injuries, and their driver is now fighting for his life in critical condition. The attack happened in the Donetsk region, an area plagued by constant danger. Military medics responded within minutes, braving the threat of further attacks to provide life-saving aid at the scene. Their quick actions were crucial in stabilizing the wounded before evacuation to a nearby hospital. This incident highlights not only the extreme risks journalists face every day, but also the extraordinary bravery of medics who work under fire to save lives in the most dangerous conditions imaginable. Ukraine is now considered one of the world's most heavily mined countries, with hidden explosives threatening civilians, aid workers, and reporters alike. The risk is ever present, making every journey perilous. Since the invasion began, dozens of journalists have been killed or wounded while trying to document the conflict and share the truth with the world. Their courageous work ensures that the world does not turn away from the harsh reality of this war, and that the stories of those affected are not forgotten. In response, press freedom groups have called for stronger measures and greater protection for journalists working in war zones, demanding accountability and safety for those on the front lines of reporting. The legacy of landmines will haunt Ukraine for years to come, leaving a deadly threat that will take generations to clear and continuing to endanger all who live and work in these regions. On the front lines, Russia claims to have seized the villages of Muravka and Novoivanovka in the Kharkiv region. These incremental advances reflect Moscow's grinding offensive, village by village, using overwhelming firepower. The loss of territory is a blow to Ukrainian defenders, who are forced to fight for every meter. The fog of war makes real-time verification difficult. Ukrainian officials have yet to confirm these losses. Each village becomes a microcosm of the larger struggle for sovereignty. The relentless pressure in the east and northeast is testing Ukraine's endurance. Attritional warfare is costly for both sides, turning small settlements into sites of brutal combat. The ground war remains a brutal test of resilience. The conflict's ripple effects reached the Baltic, as Estonia reported 2 Russian MiG-31 jets violated its airspace near Vaindloo Island. The jets flew without transponders and ignored radio contact, a deliberate and provocative act. Estonia summoned Russia's charge d'affaires, lodging a formal protest. Such incidents are part of a broader Russian strategy to intimidate and test NATO's resolve. For Estonia, a frontline NATO state, these actions are a direct challenge to sovereignty. NATO allies have seen similar provocations increase since the war began. The risk of escalation in the region is real. The Baltic remains a flashpoint in the wider conflict. Moscow swiftly denied Estonia's accusation, claiming its jets were conducting routine training over neutral waters. The Russian Ministry of Defense dismissed the incident as a misunderstanding, ignoring Estonia's radar data and concerns. This is a familiar pattern. Russia routinely denies such violations, framing itself as a responsible actor. The denial is aimed at both international and domestic audiences, reinforcing the Kremlin's narrative of being unfairly targeted by NATO. The conflicting accounts only deepen mistrust and raise tensions in the region. Dialogue becomes harder as each side stands firm. NATO and its allies responded quickly, condemning Russia's airspace violation as unacceptable and destabilizing. The alliance emphasized its commitment to air policing and collective defense, sending a clear message to Moscow. The UK, France, and the US echoed these concerns, highlighting the risks to civilian air traffic and regional security. The coordinated response demonstrates unity among NATO members. The US reaffirmed its commitment to Article 5, warning of the consequences of escalation. These statements are part of NATO's deterrence strategy, publicly isolating Russia and reinforcing alliance solidarity. The Baltic incident is a reminder that provocations against one member concern the entire alliance. NATO remains vigilant and prepared to defend its members. The European Union is preparing its 19th sanctions package against Russia, aiming to close loopholes and target the energy sector. The new measures will focus on entities helping Russia bypass restrictions and may include limits on Russian LNG transshipment through European ports. President Zelenskyy welcomed the move but urged the EU to intensify pressure, especially on energy revenues funding Russia's war. For Ukraine, sanctions are a matter of survival, not just economics. The debate in Brussels is about limiting Russia's ability to wage war. Each new package is a test of Europe's resolve. The outcome will shape the conflict's next phase. In a surprising twist, Donald Trump revealed he spoke with China's President Xi Jinping about ending the war in Ukraine. Trump claimed both leaders see a path to peace, though he offered no specifics. The call comes as Trump continues to assert he could end the war quickly if elected, a claim met with skepticism. China's role is complex. Beijing calls for peace but supports Moscow economically and diplomatically. Any peace plan involving China will be scrutinized to ensure it doesn't legitimize Russia's territorial gains. Trump's outreach adds unpredictability to the diplomatic landscape. As a leading U.S. candidate, his actions carry weight even out of office. The prospect of a Trump-Xi brokered peace will be closely watched in Kyiv, Moscow, and beyond. As we close, the war in Ukraine remains a dynamic, tragic conflict with global consequences. From battlefield strikes to diplomatic standoffs, each event is a piece of a much larger story. Staying informed is crucial, not just for understanding the war, but for bearing witness to its human cost. Thank you for joining us. For ongoing updates, subscribe and stay engaged. We'll continue to bring you clear, comprehensive coverage as the story unfolds.